Greetings from Costa Rica, and thank you very much for joining me tonight, Saturday, December 23rd. That's right, it is Christmas Eve, and that means that we are on day 23 of Mattvent, perhaps the most important YouTube event of the year, aside from a number of other YouTube events that have happened this year. I wanted to say that today, in celebrating day number 23 of Mattvent, in which I committed to doing 25 videos in 25 days, we are going to be talking really and focusing on owning Costa Rica real estate versus renting. And this whole subject came up throughout the day because I started out with some really wonderful experiences this morning in Santa Cruz de Guanacaste, which is just a charming Costa Rican town that I've explored before on this channel in Matt Hits the Town, chapters 1 and 2. But I just had such a great day here. The whole town is ready for Christmas. This is a Christian country, so everybody revolves their year around Christmas, Easter, etc. And you can feel in the air that something special is just going on, as it always happens in Costa Rica. And today I'm really feeling the spirit as to why I'm happy that I own here versus why I am just renting here. And really tonight, I would like to talk about why I'm living here versus why I'm just vacationing here, because that's the essence of the difference. And what I really want to express tonight is discuss the fact that as a realtor here in Costa Rica, I see a ton of people come and go. I've lived here for 15 years and seen a lot of disillusioned people for whom this didn't work out. And you start to build up, really ideas as to why they're staying and why they are actually leaving, success versus failure in Costa Rica. And a lot of times I realize that some of these reasons that people are either staying or leaving are very much related to the differences between renting versus owning property. So tonight, in a quick, really honest broadcast, I want to discuss a little bit of hard news, frankly, for all of the Costa Rica renters that I've been talking to over the past year. I'm typically extremely pro-rental. I think people should try out properties here in Costa Rica before they actually own them. And yes, you should vacation here before you move on to ownership. The bad news, I'm afraid, is that renting property here, you're not getting the same experience as you are owning. And in fact, if you're trying to move to Costa Rica and you hope to make this your home, then really renting may not be the right step, speaking more medium and long term. Tonight, I want to talk about those differences between owning and renting that I think can really help people find happiness here in Costa Rica. And especially, I want to just gush on and on about how great it is to live here in an environment where you feel that everyone is so welcoming, where you feel you can build these relationships with people that you employ, and where you see that over the years, you start to like living in a culture more and more. Because frankly, Costa Rica is a place that isn't so easy to understand at first. A lot of people won't like it ever, but if you can stick through those first difficult years and really get on to building those relationships that I talked about, then you can find that this is one of the most wonderful countries on earth to live in. Stay tuned. Good evening, folks. My name is Matt Rosensteel, aka Costa Rica Matt. If you like straightforward advice about moving to or investing in Costa Rica, do be sure to subscribe to my channel. John Miller, thanks very much for joining me tonight. if anyone else is out there in the chat and you want to ask me a question about what I'm talking about, or if you just want to post a comment or concern, don't hesitate to do so. Or if you're watching this after I'm live, you can also post a comment and I will try to eventually reply. Despite my absolutely massive, multi-million person audience. Tonight, I want to talk about how owning Costa Rica real estate can really lead to a difference in your experience here versus renting. And primarily, I want to focus on whether or not owning might be better than renting, despite the fact that all year long, I'm being as kind as possible and really gentle in trying to tell people that you can rent and that you should before you consider investing in real estate here. I wanted just to mention, here's my email address, matt@costaricamat.com. If you're ready to start talking about investing in Guanacaste, send me a note and let's definitely connect. I'll be more than happy to do so. One of the first reasons that I think owning property here versus renting as a difference in your lifestyle is definitely the ability to do projects. I have found no more happiness in my life than when I moved to Costa Rica, and eventually I was able to go out and hack things down with my machete, plant new things that I wanted to see around the yard, and generally sort of, move around the yard. I was going to say putz around, but I think that might not be a PC term. Just do projects in my own property. I don't think I would be very happy, or I wouldn't be as happy as I currently am if I weren't able to do those projects. And right off the bat, you get a big difference between owning a property here and renting one. Projects are more fun because you live in the tropics, and anything you plant during the rainy season, if you're doing a native plant, I'm not talking about microgreens and exotic, spinach imported from some other place. I'm saying that if you want to plant fruit trees or other reasonable garden plants here in Guanacaste, you can absolutely do so, and the joy of engaging in that in your yard is going to be something that is better than if you were just renting an apartment and really unable to do anything about your surroundings. Around our house, we currently have, a nut tree, 15 different citrus trees, this carambola, which is passion fruit. We have just everything imaginable. We've also raised chickens, ducks, and goats over the years. And my experience living in Costa Rica has been far greater because I've been able to just go out into my own property and do that when I want to. Sorry, I got someone walk by the studio there. Had to give my shout out. I think it was Kelly. Thanks for walking by. Anyway, next, I want to talk about the fact that if you move to Costa Rica and own property, you're actually going to build relationships with people that are different than renting, no matter how you try to slice it. You can rent the same property year after year after year, whether it's a hotel room, a nice Airbnb, a condo, a huge home. Everybody will be friendly to you, and you will be able to build wonderful relationships with those staff that work at the hotel, the Airbnb, etc. Every day when I sell property here, I see one of the biggest reasons that people loved their experience in Costa Rica was that they have relationships with the people that they've met here in the community. And oftentimes it's because they have employed those people in their home, whether it's a landscaper, a cleaner, somebody who's managing but a Tico rather than a foreigner. You've got so many people with whom you can build a relationship if you own a home in Costa Rica. For example, the guy who currently does our sort of outside maintenance, I want to say I do some of the work outdoors because that's part of my passion, but we do have a guy who works for us on the lawn. We have a little bit of permaculture happening around, and he is somebody who was about 13 or 14 years old, maybe a bit older, when he was helping as an electrician's apprentice building our house. Local kid, known him for now what seems like, 15, 20 years. And he is absolutely someone we've enjoyed relating to because first, he helped build our house. Then we had some little projects here, building a stairwell or adding some concrete or planting bamboo, whatever it was. Now we have this dense, rich relationship that's been formed over the years that we would have never been able to form with community members had we just been renting property. I could cite 400 examples as to why that happens, in my lifestyle, working with property management through Anne Maurice for some years, but real estate as well. You see that owning property enables you to build those exceptional relationships with Costa Ricans. And that's one of the absolute top reasons people enjoy living here to begin with. I don't want to say at any point that renting here is going to lead you just to being sad and not really having this rich experience. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. There are people who come to a certain location for so long that they do build these relationships. I'm just saying that one of the key advantages to owning a property here is that absolutely these relationships are formed faster. There are going to be more of them, and you more often see people who own properties setting up these kinds of relationships. Finally, the reason that I originally started blabbing on about owning versus renting was that this morning I was doing some errands in Santa Cruz, our local regional capital. I'll just bring this up here for a second if I can, to give you an idea of where Santa Cruz is. We're out here on the coast, the beach in Playa Junquial. If you go inland, you find Santa Cruz, which is one of the 80+ county capitals in Costa Rica. Santa Cruz is an absolutely pure old Guanacaste town where if you've been involved with people for years, and if you've got language skills here in Costa Rica, you're going to see small town living at its absolute best. This morning, when we went into town, Jonas and I, first of all, we had to buy some spray to put on my dog's back. The veterinarian knows Jonas and immediately said, "Oh, Jonas, it's been so long since you've been in our store. How have you been?" Greeted him. Jonas is immediately put on the spot to speak Spanish, to talk to somebody who's working behind the veterinarian counter in Santa Cruz. And it's one of 4 million experiences that happen every year that I feel grateful for. So we walked next door to go to the meat shop, the carniceria, which I visited also in Matt Hits the Town as well. And Jonas and I are immediately greeted by a DJ because this is a fairly party, related day of the year because things are getting festive here towards December. The carniceria in most of your local cities is going to have somebody playing music. This guy sitting in front of his speaker playing, local cumbia, salsa, and merengue music knew everybody who walked into the meat shop itself. Literally half the entertainment was watching him say, here comes Don Juan, from tal barrio, and immediately just sort of greeting people, welcoming them to the meat shop. But, he's also playing music and just trying to get more customers. So we go up there and immediately he starts talking to my son about, if you want to dance to this kind of music, you should stick out your elbows like a chicken and sort of move like this. And I'm living in this absolutely friendly moment where, I do remember being back in the US, people don't tend to be this overtly friendly. There is not, at least in the places that I've lived in the US, I've had very little opportunity to be so friendly with my community and the people in it that I would walk into a carniceria or meat store and expect somebody to immediately start joking around with me, let alone DJing and trying to get my son to dance. So this is the kind of thing that happens because I've lived here versus vacationing here. I feel that I would not have these relationships if I was just a visitor. Since 2008, I've been very fortunate to actually stay here in Costa Rica. And every day, whether it's making copies or going to the cell phone shop, doing these things in Santa Cruz, I get to build relationships with people who are absolutely different than the people I would have expected to meet when I was growing up. And these little experiences that Jonas and I can have the day before Christmas Eve are part of the reason I am 100% glad that I own Costa Rica real estate versus just visiting and renting it. If you are interested in coming to Costa Rica and joining me, do be sure to subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so that you see when I have new videos out there. It's been, as always, an absolute pleasure, folks. Let's call it a night and Merry Christmas.